Hello and welcome to Tabletop 24. I'm Alan.
I'm John.
I'm Brian.
And welcome to another episode of We'll Play Again, where we take a look at games that we've recently got to the table with a view of how quick we can get them back to the table, and we answer the question of, will we play again? Today we have Decorum by Floodgate Games. Now, we must obviously say this was provided by them at UKGE, so thank you to them. They've made this sort of We'll Play Again possible. But with that, they had no obligation to it. There's no for us to say, so what you're going to see is our viewpoints on the game, which by its tagline is a game of passive-aggressive cohabitation. We are all living in the house and we want it a certain way. Now, there is a way that we can all live together and live in harmony, but we will be taking items off the board, putting them on the board, changing them for different types of items so that we can reach our goals. But also, we need to work together as a team to get our goals sorted. But we can't really go into detail about what we want because we don't like talking to each other in the house. We can say after something's placed in the house whether we like it, dislike it, or variations on that. There is scenarios for a 2-player game and scenarios for a 3 or 4-player game. There are 10 for the 3 or 4-player game and there are 20 for the 2-player game. There are going to be more coming out with an app that Floodgate Games is going to be launching. But there is a few fan scenarios I think people have put up because it is a bit of a puzzle. So people have put things up that they like. So I think the tagline in this is key.
Yeah, the passive-aggressive cohabitation. It's a game where you're freely allowed to tell people you dislike what they're doing in no uncertain terms. And I think that what that does is it just generates a lot of spark of conversation and interaction between people. And I really like the fact that when you just play this, there's a lot of banter and talk. You know, hate blue, I don't like red. You know, why is that green? Why? And I just like the spark that it generates. I think it's a good game.
Yes, the way you know that is you get some cards given to you that are unique to yourself, and they contain things that you must have in the house for you to be happy. And in the 3-player game, you're given a 4th card to represent the 4th player, and then at some point, every sort of 5 rounds, you can choose to share one of your cards with one of the other players, so they can see, oh, that's what you're trying to do. And then you can also take it back and give it to somebody else next time.
Yeah.
But because there's only 3 times you can do this, and there's 4 cards, you're not going to get through all the
Never
cards.
going to have full information
So
disclosed.
yeah. So that's the sort of hidden information side of it.
It works well in that you can't say, oh yeah, I need to have a blue thing in that room to somebody. It's like, oh, I don't like the fact that you put a red. I don't like the lamp in there. Or I don't like the colour of the cupboard or the picture.
That's the thing. If you play this to the letter of the law of the rules, it is you can only say
I don't like it.
I like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I'm satisfied.
I don't
I'm
mind
happy.
Yeah.
But I think what you find here is you get to a comfortable state of how you want to communicate as people, and I think a lot of this is in how you communicate rather than the fact that you can't communicate. So if you take something like The Crew, which is a trick-taking game that you cannot communicate in and you've got a very specific way to communicate.
Or the mind.
Or things like that sort of genre, this you can sort of ad-lib more.
Yes.
You are allowed to talk. And it's about what you share. And yeah, you could be a little bit overzealous with what you're sharing. Like, I can't stand that green lamp. But actually,
it is a co-op game, so it's in your interest to tell the truth to people. There's some in information games you're trying to withhold the truth, aren't you?
Yeah, and I think that's a fair point. And in this, yeah, you're working together, you're trying to do that, and it might be a case that you turn around and say, "Why have you put that red lamp in the bedroom? You've done that before," and you can sort of overstep or. Yeah. When somebody makes a change, you're like, no, I completely hate that. Why? We just can't do this. And you can put more emotion into what you're saying and more emotion into how you're talking to each other.
It's how you communicate, not what you communicate.
Yeah, very, very much so, very much so.
So, talk about the components. They're quite nice, heavy card background for this. It's quite a small table size. The components on the table here are from an expansion. They're not. They're a special edition.
Yeah, these are the deluxe. Yeah, these are the deluxe editions.
So they're cardboard. I think the cardboard ones look pretty good actually, but the deluxe ones look really quite special. They've got a plastic face and a sticker on the back, so they have just a nice tactile and a visual appeal to them. I think it's a shame that wasn't part of the original base components, because that would have added something special to this game.
Yeah, I think you look at the acrylic tokens and we've seen it laid out, and I wasn't actually aware that there was 2 editions to this, one being the standard edition with the cardboard, and then the deluxe expansion, which is the acrylic stuff. And would I have taken a slightly different turn if it was just the cardboard? Maybe. I think the game doesn't change anywhat, but I think the appeal, the look, and the grabbing nature of the acrylic tokens really gets people into this. I'm really glad that we got this. And I think, they just add something else. I mean, the cards are cards, and the envelopes and stuff, and it's got a nice insert. But yeah, the acrylic tokens really make this for a game.
It does pop on the table, I have to say. But interestingly, because it's hidden information and in campaignish in nature, which we're going to touch on in a second, there's bits that we still haven't opened. But depending what those bits are, they aren't the acrylic tokens. So how would they integrate into the game? Would there be a glaring disparity between the 2 parts? Don't know.
Yeah,
excited to find out.
Yeah. So obviously, as John said, it is campaignish. You've got 20 scenarios for the 2-player and 10 for the 3 or 4 player. They get progressively harder, more information, slightly variance on what you need to be doing. And for the 2-player game, there are 2 packs in the box that are sealed. That says don't open this until certain game. Whether it's a little bit of spoilerish, and there is stuff in there. So it's nice that they've got that in there. I think it does very much get progressively more complex and progressively more intuitive at the same point, because you've played those earlier games where you know that the wall colours have become a factor. So when you start looking at harder ones and you say, okay, well, they start introducing cold and hot temperatures, which means it's got to be green or blue for cold, or red and yellow for hot. It then starts putting those variants in on that, and actually gives you something else to go after. So
yeah, it's an interesting one, because it kind of, that campaignish feel just means that it sits better having in a game session 2, 3, or 4 plays rather than just 1 and then put it away and have another one, because you build up that intuition with the group of players, and I feel you need to feed off that and keep going rather than just 1 and done and move on. I think that could detract from it if you don't have a regular gaming group, or if it's coming out irregularly. That could detract it, because you'll just get stuck, maybe. So yeah,
there's something we mentioned earlier on. Is it's not so much of would you play it again, is maybe you should play again.
Yeah,
to get the best out of it.
Yeah.
It's just so much benefits the repeat play and actually picking it up and keep going with it. And I recently sat down with somebody who hadn't played it before, and we got through pretty much half of the 2-player campaign. I've still yet to complete that, so I'm really looking forward to finishing that off. But I think it definitely benefits when you're playing with the same person as well, because you learn how people think.
So the question is it a puzzle or is it a game? I think it for me, in essence, it's a puzzle in nature.
I feel more like a puzzle.
Yeah.
I think the mechanics of it make it a puzzle. I think the people you play it with make it a game.
Yeah.
And obviously one won't be without the other, but I think that's sort of the line for me.
Yeah, very much so. I think you're dead right there. I mean, it's a great puzzle to solve, and it's wrapped up in a beautiful system of play.
Mm. You're doing one thing on your turn, and you're moving around.
Yeah,
and just obviously you mentioned a few times about the difference in player count. So in 4-player game, you get 4 cards, and they'll all have different items on the back of it, and you will therefore go through the list of stuff and try and get an amicable solution. In a 3-player game, you get the 4th player's clue spit out between people. Fine, I think that works really well. I think 3 players is shoehorned in, but they've done it very well, and they've given it a really nice balance. You've got a bit of extra information and more information that you can share. I think on 4 players, it works reasonably well. I think you've got all the information. The negative side for that, for me, is if I've made a change, let's, for instance, say I can't have anything green in the kitchen. So I remove this picture. But by the time, although I may say I don't like it or I do like it, by the time it's got back around to me, the 3 other players on the table may have just turned the whole kitchen green. Which is completely plausible, because it might be working towards their goals, although they don't know it doesn't work for me. The advantage of that is that the further you go into the game, the more you're likely to actually have shared that information. And if they keep changing things green, you're like, right, have this bit of information, stop doing it.
You've got to look at what everybody's doing when it's not your turn, which is a good thing. I think that's like player interaction, I think. So if you put a green thing in and then you say you don't like it, I should make note of that, really. Because otherwise it's unavoidable because of what your cards are doing. You need it to be green.
Yeah.
Or no.
But the 2-player game. The 2-player game is where this sings for me. Obviously, these guys haven't played 2-player, they've played in the 3 or the 4, but I've played a lot on the 2-player side. And you get so much more out of it on 2-player. It's so quicker.
Yeah.
We were playing games in 10 to 15 minutes.
But again, it's that into it, isn't it? It's that connection you have with the player, and if you can just build on that and just keep that going.
Yeah. And I think actually to touch on the mechanics as a whole, it really depends on who you're playing with, because I've found myself, because I've probably got the most experience when I've played it with people of this specific game, that I'm doing something that I know is going to benefit them. Not because I know what the clue is, but because I know what the mechanics are. I know whether there might be something that says only upstairs can be blue. So I may change something that's not completely beneficial to me, but it signals to the other player, I know what you're trying to do here, and I'm trying to help you out.
And that's where the game lies.
Yeah, and it's about the experience of the players, and I think the people you play this with, you need to pick the people you play it with, because I think you can have a laugh and a joke with this.
Yeah.
It brings out a lot of memories and a lot of examples where people have put certain things in certain rooms.
There's a lot of shared experience in living with people and stuff being moved about, and you draw on that in this. And and that's where we go back to the top of it. The chat and the banter builds up, and the way you play it, and the conversation. Because
I think that sort of speaks to the theme a little bit. And the theme on paper, when I first heard about it, didn't strike me with excitement, moving things around the house. But because it is such a shared experience, a real life experience, it draws you in quite easily.
Yeah,
draws you in quite quickly, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, would I live in a house where people are moving stuff around like that? No, I wouldn't. I'd end up burning it to the ground. But I can't say any more on that because the investigation's still ongoing.
So yeah, I think absolutely the players are what makes this, and there might be somebody you'd sit and play it with that you're just not on the same wavelength. So all you're going to end up doing is frustrating each other. The game should work around that, and mechanics in the game should give you that leeway to help get over that. But there will be certain people that you just don't want to play this with because it's not going to be a good thing. And there are other games out there that you can play that will be it. But I think for everybody that I've played this with, and for the vast majority, it's a laugh.
And there is a solution. Just the game aspect is, can you get to the solution before the game tracker?
Yeah, and it is
that time. It's a timing.
Yeah. Sometimes you can trip on that on luck. Sometimes you're really trying hard. I think we had a game where we were all going off in different directions, and we were really struggling. And what we kind of all silently agreed was, let's start stripping the board back and start again. So we were just taking things out rather than changing them or moving or adding them.
I think as well that you could suffer in a 3 or 4 player game, in that very early on, the house is perfect for you. So you declare the house is perfect for me. And then people just start moving things and you're putting things back. And you can just end up just doing not very little, but just sitting being a passenger in somewhat. And then if that's a 3-player in that situation, it does become a 2-player game in that essence.
You're just moderating what you're trying to do. Okay, so that is everything, obviously, for Decorum. That's what we've run through. So, John, would you play again?
I would play again, but I feel, as I've said, I think you need an evening to play session, a sequence of games to get the most out of it rather than just a one-on-one. So yeah, I would play again.
I'm the same as John, actually. I think I would play it again. I haven't played it as many times as you, so I think I need to really get more experience to understand it a bit more. But I agree. I think it needs to be, let's have a game where like 3 or 4 games of an evening just to get that experience.
Yeah. So for me, I will play again. I think it's fantastic. I think the quality of the extra components, yes, make it a little bit better. I think a 2-player game, this really, really sings. I think 4 players, it's good. 3 players, it's good. But I think the 2-player game is where this is at. And also, the game's so quick. So where these guys have said, I'd like to sit in a session and play it, yeah, you could probably sit down for 2 hours and get through 3 or 4 scenarios, depending upon your group, and it's more of a social game in that sense because you're just talking about it, you're sharing experiences and stuff like that. So it's a win across the board for me, and I think there is an app coming out with a load more scenarios. I possibly will be interested to see what's going to come with those, and is it going to change it up a little bit more. But I mean, whoever's designed the scenarios for this has done a fantastic job.
Yeah,
and there's only going to be so much that you can put into that without having to add a module or something different. But I think it's a fantastic game, and yeah, so play again. Thank you for watching this episode of We'll Play Again. If you haven't done so already, check out our other videos on the channel, give us a like and a subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.